Well, welcome to the Unstoppable Freedom Podcast. I'm Jimmy Page. Today marks the start of a new segment on the Unstoppable Freedom Podcast called Freedom Under Fire. That's Freedom Under Fire. And this new format is designed to be shorter. It's designed to be given in bite-sized pieces so you can stay up to speed and take action right away. Freedom Under Fire is where I pick a couple of current headlines on key topics that directly relate to our freedoms in America. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'm going to tell you why it matters. And I'm going to tell you what you can do about it, including going to the unstoppablefreedomalliance.com website to get resources, because we're producing resources that are actionable, that you can download and put into use in your families, in your local communities right away. So today, for our first episode of Freedom Under Fire, I'm going to continue on the topic of educational freedom for two reasons. Number one, it's dominating the news. And number two, education, I believe, is the most important issue facing America today. So let's get right into it. Okay, headline number one. Nearly 6,000 U.S. public schools have policies that hide children's gender status from their parents. You guessed it. You got that right. So what's happening? Well, here's what we know so far. More than 3.2 million U.S. public school students are covered by guidance that blocks parents from knowing whether their child identifies as a different gender in the classroom. This, of course, is part of new guidelines from the current administration that if it's codified in federal policy, it will modify the Title IX proposal and it will go into effect. Now, I can tell you, this is a small sampling. When we say 6,000 schools, that is the tip of the iceberg. It only scratches the surface. According to this report from the Parents Defending Education, at least 168 school districts governing almost 6,000 schools nationwide have rules on the books that prevent faculty and staff from disclosing to parents a student's gender status without that student's permission. Now, again, this only scratches the surface. And how do I know that? Well, I went in and I looked at the list from Parents Defending Education, and I looked in my home state of Colorado to see if my local school district is listed, which it is not. And I happen to know without a doubt that our school district has policies, I've seen them in writing, that protect students' privacy, protect secret conversations between adults and our kids, and prevent teachers and prevent educators from communicating that to parents. So I know that this list isn't complete. There's no question, but it will become more complete over time as people continue to go on to the Parents Defending Education site and letting them know that these policies exist in district after district after district. Now, here's some interesting thing. Red states do not necessarily protect your children from this policy. It shows so far, what we know, that the problem is coast to coast. These secret conversations are happening from coast to coast. Living in a red state doesn't mean that families are automatically shielded from this issue. So sometimes you might find yourself living in Florida or living in Texas or living in Idaho or some other deep red state and think, well, my kids are safe here because there's no way that policy to hide children's gender status from parents, to allow secret conversations to happen. There's no way that's happening in my state. Well, think again. 11 districts so far that we know of in deep red Idaho, very conservative state, are on this list. 16 from Pennsylvania, 7 school districts in Virginia. Now that's very interesting because when Governor Youngkin was elected in 2021, he was elected in large part because he wanted to give parents a bigger say in their children's education. Now, we know that these, 6,000 plus schools, these 3.2 million plus kids come from large districts, small districts, affluent areas, poor areas, urban areas, rural areas, red and blue states stretching from coast to coast. Some that I saw appearing on the list were in Buffalo, New York, Rochester, New York, near where I lived growing up. Schools in the Adirondacks, a very conservative area of New York. And, you have the typical ones involved, Chicago Public Schools, LA Unified School District, DC public schools, Baltimore City schools, San Francisco schools, Portland schools, Seattle, and on the list goes. Those are the ones that you would expect to be on the list. But it's the ones that you wouldn't expect to be on the list that are really, really concerning. And meanwhile, of course, most of these school districts have failing grades in every measurement in academic performance as well. Why does this matter? Why does it matter that there are public school policies in place that mandate that teachers, administrators, counselors, etc., keep the kids' gender decisions secret from their parents? Why does this matter? Well, number one, because it is the absolute right and responsibility of parents to direct the upbringing and education of their children, period. Full stop. This is a God-given moral obligation of parents. The state does not have the right to co-parent. They don't have the right to decide how your children are going to be educated. This is just one more step in the Marxist communist revolution in this country to make your kids the property of the state. I know that can be depressing, but it is your right and responsibility as parents to direct the upbringing and education of your kids. Number two, you don't know what you don't know. Why does this matter? If secrets are being kept between an adult and your minor child that you don't know about, you have no assurance that they're being truthful with you, even when you ask. And you can never be confident that it's not going to happen to your child. I've had a lot of parents come to me and say, hey, listen, well, I've talked to my teachers. I've talked to the school. They say they don't keep secrets. But I can tell you this, they have been instructed in many cases to lie to you as parents, because what matters is what is the district policy? What's in writing? What are they actually saying that they're going to do? And you need to get to the bottom of it. So any adult that's keeping a secret about your child from you is out of bounds, in my opinion. Any adult. I don't care whether that's a neighbor, a teacher, an administrator, a counselor. I don't care who it is. Any adult that's keeping a secret about your child from you is out of bounds. So the question is, what can we do about it? Well, we've got some resources on our website at unstoppablepreedomalliance.com that spell out exactly the questions to ask your school administrators. So the first thing that you should do is download that resource on our website and ask your school administrators what their written policy is, and maybe even what their unwritten policy is, about secret conversations with your kids and whether or not they are instructed to keep information from you about your child's gender, about their pronouns, about their potential transition happening at school that you may or may not be aware of. You need to get to the bottom of it and ask your school administrators and the individual teachers what their policy is about secret conversations. And secondly, we've got a great resource on our website about putting it in writing that you do not consent to these private conversations, and then legally submit that we do not consent document to your child's teachers and their administrators. That puts them on notice that you are not consenting to adults having secret conversations that are kept from you as their parent. And then the third thing you can do about it is strongly consider removing your kids from that environment. In the event that you find out that information is being kept secret from you as their parent, that decisions are being made without your consent, then you may be left with the only option, which might be to remove your kids. Now, some people think that that's radical. I happen to think that that should be a very viable decision, a very viable choice for you as parents, because you are, in essence, handing over your kids to the schools for, over the course of their lifetime, 16,000 hours of interaction with teachers, counselors, administrators. And if they're not in partnership with you, supporting your values, removing your kids should be a part of that equation. So that's headline number one. Okay, let's move along. Let's move on to headline number two. A Christian teacher loses her job after refusing to deceive parents on kids' gender transitions. Very interesting. Right on the heels of the fact that school districts across this country have written policies that say keeping secrets from parents about their kids and their gender is their policy. Right on the heels of that, a Christian teacher who stood in the gap has been fired because of the conflict between the religious beliefs and that policy. So what's happening? A California teacher, Jessica Tapia, was fired for refusing to lie to parents, refusing to keep their kids' gender identity or transition from the parents. She's a gym teacher. She also refused to let children with male genitalia, as she says, use the female locker room. She felt like that put girls at risk. And she realized that her choice was this. She would either stay true to her religious faith and beliefs, or she could continue being a teacher, but she could no longer be both. How unfortunate is that a person of faith is forced to choose between the career choice that they're called to, that they're passionate about, that they're good at, or holding to their deeply held religious beliefs. This is America. And I guess what's amazing to me is this is religious discrimination 100%. But this is where the battle line is being drawn all across the country. Well, it's interesting because in a letter signed by the assistant superintendent in her school district, they stated based on her religious beliefs that she can't be dishonest with parents. This is for real in the letter. The district can't accommodate her religious beliefs that prevent her from maintaining a student's gender identity and refraining from disclosing a student's gender identity from their parent or guardian. So they put it in writing that because she won't lie to parents, because it violates her religious beliefs and values, she can no longer be a teacher. Well, why does this matter? Headline number one said it best. We've got written policies across this country in literally thousands of school districts. Why does it matter that a teacher, when faced with this choice to be true to their religious values or stay being a teacher and follow this policy, why does it matter? Well, it matters from my perspective because Christian teachers all across the country are facing this moral dilemma. And many of those teachers are exhausted and they're leaving the profession entirely or finding alternatives. They're either joining homeschool co-ops or they're joining private schools where they can continue to teach and not have the choice between lying to parents, violating their values, and being a great teacher. The other reason this matters is because if this stands, if a teacher can be removed because of their Christian beliefs about gender or family and marriage, that will mark the silencing of Christian values in public schools. That would be a very dangerous day for America. And I think that's the choice that we're facing right now. Will Christian values be seen as hateful, and will they be purged from our system? That's what's at stake. Well, what can you do about it? You can do the same thing about this as you did for the first one. You need to ask your school administrators, ask your teachers what their policy is about secret conversations and whether or not teachers who have strong religious beliefs are faced with this, hey, get in line and follow the policy or you're going to be dismissed idea. And put it in writing that you don't consent to this ideology, that you don't consent to these secret conversations. And ultimately, really what you can do is support your teachers. The teachers that you know and love, those that probably support your values, that have the same values as you and your family, you need to support them. Talk openly with them about your faith and ask them how they intend to support your family beliefs and values in this environment where policy might contradict your deeply held religious values. Okay, here we go. That's headline number 2. Headline number 3, an Arizona school board bans Christian student teachers. An Arizona school board bans Christian student teachers. So what's happening? Well, an Arizona public school district says that they will no longer hire student teachers from a Christian university. The Washington Elementary School District voted unanimously to end a partnership with Arizona Christian University because of the school's religious beliefs. They said that the university, their values posed a threat to the LGBTQ students and that they could no longer align themselves with organizations that had values that contrasted with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those are the buzzwords that are being used now to openly discriminate against people who have different religious values and religious beliefs. It's very interesting because they are now openly discriminating against Christians in their school district. The school board's recent decision to ban Arizona Christian University students from serving as student teachers was done for only one reason, because that university has students who are committed to Christian values. Well, we believe that that's wrong. It's unlawful. It's unconstitutional. And religious freedom and liberty are bedrock American principles. So I believe this is going to be a lawsuit. This is going to go to court. And interestingly enough, that school district has partnered with the Arizona Christian University, and they've sent more than 100 students that have served in the classroom. Administrators have time and time again asked them to send more ACU students because of the quality of their students' work and their love and servant's heart for the students. It's very interesting that this is happening now. So why does this matter? Why does this matter? Because now, if this religious and ideological discrimination is allowed to stand, it will usher in a purge of people of faith from our public schools. And the ongoing indoctrination of our children against Christian values, dividing kids from parents, will be unopposed in our schools. If Christian voices are silenced in our public schools, if this is allowed to stand, where schools will not allow qualified student teachers in the classroom just because of their religious beliefs, it will usher in a purge of people of faith from our public school system, and that's dangerous. So what can we do about it? Well, what you can do about it for sure is pray about it, is to pray that strong teachers who are standing up for their faith, teachers who believe that it's a calling for them to be in the public schools, to invest in the future of our kids, that they would be protected from this discrimination. It's really important. And you can tell education is where all of this ideological indoctrination is happening today. These three headlines alone prove that the educational battlefront is the center of the fight for freedom. It matters. So this is our first go round with Faith Under Fire. I would encourage you to go to the Unstoppable Freedom Alliance website, unstoppableFreedomAlliance.com, where you will find resources to help protect your kids and push back against the open discrimination against our religious beliefs and values. Until next time, keep fighting for freedom.